Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We got another nice, cold, gray day outside, and thanks to a nice little local outbreak of COVID around the base, I find myself with a little extra time off. So, what better way to spend some of that time than to make another video here in the middle of the week? You might notice my voice is a little bit hoarse. I went Saturday night to Norfolk Admiral's hockey game down at the Scope Arena and yelled myself pretty much voiceless. So I'll do my best to try to get through this. If it's not going to work out very well, we'll see. See what I sound like at the end of it. As always, I give you guys the raw, unedited footage that seems to be the like of the individuals that I've got here. So, what are we going to talk about today? I thought we'd get back into a little bit more of seg stories and adventures, because the more I talk about this, the more and more I remember a lot of these. So this is going to be a particular incident involving myself and a member. I don't know if he was Aryan Brotherhood, but I definitely know that he was of some kind of white supremacy organization due to his tattoos, demeanor, and just the attitude that surrounded the individual, and, well, the fact that he was white and covered in trash tats. So, how did we get to this situation? One of the first times, actually not one of, the first time that I worked segregation at OJT, I worked it in Charlie Pod. A through C pods were the better behaved, the less security threat of segregation inmates. Granted, the best behaved seg inmate was considered worse than the worst general population inmate, statistically, on paper. Those three pods, they could be worked with one officer. D, E, and F, Delta, Echo, and Foxtrot, they had to have two officers. They absolutely had to. I don't know what happened, if we were shorthanded enough that we didn't have enough. I just remember segregation typically had enough officers to run its business, to the point that there was usually an overflow of seg officers, and a lot of times we would get pimped out. We would get assigned to general population. So on this particular day, I was on OJT, and my FTO officer Lewis had assigned me to segregation. So I go in, and God, I can remember her face. I can't remember her name. She was a CO5. She worked the front picket at segregation. Segregation had its own picket to go in and out of, and that was where you would get your baton, hand restraints, not gas. We got that at the front. Gas. No, once again, I'm sorry. Thoughts are rumbling together. We already had our gas issued from the front line. So that's where you would get hand restraints, baton if you needed it, bean tool, plus all the paperwork. The board, which we called, was the stack of paperwork that had the inmates' names, cell numbers, and that's what we would use to check off for offender movement to day rooms and showers, and so to speak. She had buzzed me in, and I spoke through the glass, told her I was OJT, and she told me to go on down to C-Pod and work with the officer in there. Roger that, man. Going down to C-Pod, banged on the door opened up, and there was one officer working it. His name was Lavalier. White guy, a little bit, can't see my hand, a little taller than I am. I'm 5'11", right at 6 foot, with boots on. This guy was probably 6'3", 6'4", stocky dude. I remember on shift, Lavalier, Cajun, Louisiana, coon ass, not at all spelled the way it sounded, and Lieutenant Raymond would affectionately call him Lava Lamp. Now, if you were his buddy, you could call him that. If somebody else called him that, he didn't seem to appreciate it. I called him that periodically, and he and I weren't very good buddies. So the first day, he's moving offenders around. I go over to him. I introduce myself. Hey, how you doing, Officer Carter? Hey, what's going on, man? Lavalier. Cool, good. Shook hands. Said, you ever handcuffed anybody? I said, not within TDCJ. I meant Coast Guard experience related, as well as working previous corrections. The face he made kind of took it to mean bedroom style, hotel room style, that kind of thing. So after we got done with the look, we worked together, we moved offenders around all day. It really wasn't a bad day. CPOD was not all that bad to work. The guys, they'd come to the door, they'd cuff up, they'd get to the day room. They were still loud, they yelled and hollered, but they would yell and holler at each other, not at the officers. When it was time to get ready to move these guys, they came right to the door, they'd cuff up. They were what you would call um, passive compliant, a subject who follows officers' verbal commands and directions. Most of the ones I was used to dealing with, passive resistors, they wouldn't necessarily do what you told them to unless you upped the escalation. By upping that, usually meaning upping the verbal commands, or once you put hands on them to get ready to escort them, most of the time they do what you had said. I've got plenty of other videos for ones who didn't. Guys that would break out of the grip and take off running down the tier, ones that would purposely try to trip down the stairs just to cause uses of force, just to disrupt the day. So on this particular day, it was a really good day. I didn't work very long. OJT days were short. Shift wise, they were usually some of the best time that you could have there. Once I was done at the end of the day, reported back to Officer Lewis, told her about how things were. That was when I had my initial interest in segregation. I pretty much made up in my mind at that point I wanted to be in segregation as opposed to general population. I thought it was a little bit safer there. No, fucking inmate's an inmate. So, where are we going in with this story? Well, let's fast forward up until I'm on shift now. I've been on shift for quite a few months, and this particular week, Lieutenant Raymond, a lot of times, he liked to move us around the pods quite a bit. He wanted to keep the inmates guessing, wanted to keep them on their game. It went against the principles of firm, fair, consistent. We were taught in the academy when you interact with an inmate, firm, fair, consistent. If you come in one day and you're a hardcore rule enforcer and you're writing cases, you come in the next day, you're officer friendly, they hate that. They don't know what to expect, and they're just going to act out and lash out. At least if you're going to be officer regulation, they know what to expect from you, and they're going to act accordingly. If you're going to be officer friendly, they know what to expect with that, and they'll act accordingly. So pick one and go with it. I was officer regulation. This particular day, once again, I don't remember the name of the individual, black guy, slick bald head, usually wore a baseball cap. He and I had been assigned to work together. And you know how when you meet somebody and right off the bat, you haven't shaken hands with them and you just know you're not going to get along with this individual? You're in a situation, a setting, or something. You meet a group of people and one of them's a buddy and they start to introduce you to those around it. You instantly get the rub from the individual. That was how I got from this guy. I don't know why. Probably because I'm so strikingly good looking and was just the best officer walking the corridor. Sorry. He probably got that feeling from me. So right off the bat, we didn't get along. So we're working CPOD, and there's these two particular inmates. I remember them because they were the first two inmates that Lavalier and I escorted. The big white guy that I told you about earlier, we took him to the day room, took him to the shower, back to his cell. The other dude, never knew his name, never knew his number, covered in tattoos. I'm talking about tattoos on down. The only thing that wasn't tatted, really, was like this part of his face right here. And I guess the two guys were buddies because they always talked to each other from the cell. When one would move, the other one would start talking. And the guy that I'm talking about first, the big dude, he always called this other individual psych patient. Okay. I never heard the other guy say a whole lot. He was very sinister, very creepy, very eerie. I don't know what he was in SEG for, but individuals that were in SEG for the long term, they were there for a reason. Now, some individuals could end up in SEG because of a disciplinary infraction. I think that's the right word. They'd be there for, I don't know, 14 days, less than a month, and then they head back to general population. These two guys, forever segregation. They were not going to get out of it. So on this particular day, me and this guy were working together, and we take both of these guys out to go to the day room. Because of the classification levels, the higher classification level inmates, they could only be in the day room by themselves. Lesser classification, you could house inmates in the same kind of day room. What's the benefit to that? We had 6 day rooms and we had 2 outside areas. That's 8 offenders you could have out. Now you're just kind of milling around, waiting for the time to go by, ready to move them on back to their cells. Benefit to it, once you've moved them all out, you could put a couple of extra guys in the day rooms and the outside area. So if I've got 8 of them, I could potentially have 14 inmates out in that same 2-hour time frame. Made offender movement a little bit easier. On this particular day, we had these 2 guys outside rec room. Outside rec, technically it was outside, but it was surrounded concrete wall, high up ceiling with a fence over the top of it. I talked about that in a previous video where little James had climbed all the way up to the top, and one of the senior COs climbed up there to get him and basically power slammed him. For those who know about wrestling, basically power slammed him down to the concrete floor and smashed his face all up. Fuck that dude. I wish it happened more often. So on this particular day, we had these 2 guys outside, and one of the things, the benefits to being outside, there was air, there was outside noises, there was also basketball. Now the back and the whatever, I don't play basketball, the hoop, the ring, whatever, it didn't have a net. It was just that. Sometimes the ball would be half flat. They couldn't dribble it. They could still throw it around. On this particular day, it was aired up enough, and the 2 guys were running around. They were dribbling, getting some good exercise, and commissary lady came in. Well, when the commissary lady came in, man, picture you're sitting in the stands in the arena, and team rolls out, and everybody just erupts, or whatever event that you're interested in that erupts into, that's how it was. It would happen when necessities would come in, which is their clothes, soap, TP, razor. When commissary came in, it was more so than anything. The beating, banging, hollering, you couldn't hear nothing. And when they would come in, it wasn't like all the SEG guys could line up and they'd start passing it out. The commissary lady, I say lady because I never saw anything but females work commissariat styles. They usually had, how many was it? 3 worker inmates. Okay, and their stuff would be, they called it the onion sack. It was a red mesh bag, and it would have all their stuff in it. They would go to the cell. Well, they didn't have their own access to the cells. We had to stop whatever it is we were doing, escort them on around, pop the cell, and they would read off the inventory list to the offender of what they had. Now, the worker inmates would open the bag up, and as the commissary lady would read it off, they would pass it through the cell. And the order was usually wrong. Or if it wasn't wrong, and the guy in the cell was in the mood just to be a turd, that wasn't mine, I didn't order that, I ordered this, that, here we go, infractions are on. The day was usually over, offender movement wise, when the commissary lady came in. Well, one of the things they couldn't do, it would be easier if they could have just shoved the commissary bag in the cell and left, it would have been so much easier. But because the guys had spent their own actual money, they couldn't do that. Well, these 2 guys were, sorry, I was looking down at my cat. She's making her little demon noises again. This particular day, the 2 guys that were in the cells, the commissary lady and her entourage got there, and they were in the day room. Well, they couldn't go to the day room and pass out anything, so we had to take the guys from the day room and we had to put them in their cells. Okay, they came absolutely willingly. They couldn't wait to get that commissary. We cuffed them up, took them back to their cell doors, and passed the commissary lady had passed everything on into them, and the guy said they still had time left. What was going to happen, they were going to get the commissary, we were going to take them back out of their cells, and we were going to take them back to the day room. It might have only been something like 20 minutes, but that time was absolutely precious to these guys. It was their only time out of these cells that was the size of a closet. Some closets are bigger than that. So they still had some time left. And this particular guy said to me, "Hey, we're not even going to pull these guys back out. This is way too much work." And I said, "They still got time left." He's like, I ain't even pulling them out. No, not doing it. We're moving on. The guy did have time and seniority on me. I didn't want to argue with him in front of the other inmates. That was the absolute worst thing you could do. These two guys were elated. They had their commissary. Now they're getting ready to go back out, play basketball. Once they had their commissary, guy's getting ready to stick his hands back through with his cuffs. We cuffed him in the front. I don't remember why. I think he might have had something pacemaker related, but we had him cuffed in the front. And he goes to stick his hands back through, and this particular officer slams the slut. God. Lucky it's a prison channel. Slams the slot shut, closes the latch on it. Well, this guy starts banging on the door. Hey, we still got time left. No, we got more work to do. And he walks on. Officer Carter, please, come here, Officer Carter. I go over to the door. Hey, what you got, man? Hey, come on, man, look, hey, you know we still got time left. Man, you pulled us out of the day room. We didn't even have to come out of the day room. Commissary would have come back by and give us our stuff. This guy was begging me to let him out the door. I couldn't do it by myself. I tried to talk the guy down. I was like, look, man, listen. I get it. I was still a new officer. Look, man, I get it. My partner doesn't want to pull you out. I got to move on. I got to do my thing. We always got tomorrow. Okay? I know you got time left. I'm going to try to give you some of that extra time tomorrow. Hey, man, I don't even know if you're going to be working here tomorrow. You may be off. You call in sick. Anything could happen. You ain't going to be able to honor that. Listen, you're just going to have to take me on my word, okay? I know I can't promise it, but I'm telling you right now, if I'm back in here, I'm going to give you that time. And he kind of pouts a little bit, cries. It was actually kind of pathetic to watch. Big man basically acting like a child at that point. He turns around, starts rummaging through his stuff, and I go back on with this guy, and we go back to offender movement. We didn't talk to each other, nothing. The next day, he was right. I did get assigned to a different pod. Okay, I was assigned B pod. I didn't even get a chance to leave and go over and tell the guy anything. So I didn't even think about it. But these guys, these inmates, offenders, they remember it. If you tell them you're going to do something, do it. If you don't, they're going to remember it. It may be a year. They're going to remember it, and it will come back in some way, shape, form, or another. You always tell them no. It's easier to turn a no into a yes than a yes into a no. I didn't know that at the time, and I learned that after this. The next day, it was our Friday, and I was assigned C-Pod again with a different partner. We're moving around, and as soon as we banged on the guy's cell in the morning, woke him up. Carter, hey, Carter, we got day room today. Hey, we got shower, we got rec. Yeah, we got rec. I don't remember the guy's name. I knew it at the time. All right, man. So we move on all around, do our checks. Now it's time to start moving the guys around. We came to his cell. All right. Told him, hey, you ready for rec? You ready for shower? He's like, I don't want rec. I just want my shower. All right, man. Turn around, cuff up. Hey, you don't need them cuffs. turn around and cuff up. You don't need them cuffs. They ain't gonna do you no good. Like, hey man, they're not for me. They're for you. No, no, they're for you, boss. And you don't need them. I'm like, what the? What's this guy talking about? If you put them on, they ain't gonna do no good. All right, man. If you don't put the hand restraints on, I'm just gonna have to move on. Oh, so you gonna leave me in here like you did the other day? You don't fucking lied to me about this. Just going off. I should have left the dude, but I didn't. Talked him down. The guy working with me, he didn't know what was going on. We didn't talk about the other day. So he turns around. I put the hand restraints on, and this dude was big. All right. I could get about maybe 2 clicks, and it felt like skin started to resist. The guy's arm was hairy, but grabbing onto it, man, it felt like grabbing onto a hairy tree stump. The guy was just fucking stacked. Okay. I guess all he did was work out in his cell. So I get him on. All right. He backs out. We roll the door. He backs out. I put my hand around. When I say I put my hand around him, it wasn't like I'm grabbing onto an arm. Like I can grab down a little bit. It was like, you know, hand couldn't close. Dude was so big. May as well not even had a hand on the freaking dude. Wasn't nothing I could do to him. I got my hand on him. I take him down to the shower. Now the shower, the doors, picture the door, it had a piece of mesh. We called it the chicken wire. You could look through that, and that's how you could see in the guy's cells, which made it dangerous because they could throw shit through those cells. They could make stabbing objects, weapons. They could stick through it. Okay, the shower didn't have that. The shower was a red door. It had the slot that dropped and had a little face slot up so you could look in and see the individual in there. So I put the guy in the shower. I open the slot up, and I'm waiting for his hands to come out. And I hear something kind of this faint, like metal on metal kind of sound. Okay. And I couldn't really see the dude because he was kind of bent down a little bit. So I stepped back and I yelled out, oh, whatever his name was, hey, stick your hands out so I can uncuff him. The guy turns around. I see his face. And he says, I told you weren't going to need them cuffs, boss. What? He holds his hands up and he does one of these. He had broken the chain at the links and was essentially free at that point. He's no longer restrained. He said, I'm going to tell you something, boss man. You open that door, it's going to be your last day here. You go get somebody else. You go get me a sergeant. I'm done. I felt like this dude meant it. There wasn't nothing. Even if the guy was still hand restrained, if he got his legs or something on it, there probably wasn't nothing I could have done to this dude. Just jacked. And I tried to talk to him. Hey man, look, I ain't even hearing it. It's dead to me. When an inmate says it's dead to me, that means they're done with the conversation. It's just not going to do anything else. He said, it's dead to me. You go get the sergeant. You go get LT. I'm done. Didn't beat, didn't bang, didn't holler. Looked over at my partner. I was like, ain't nothing we can do about this, man. Went to the picket, called a lieutenant. Hey, LT, guy over in the shower, he broke the handcuffs. Like, what? Raymond thought I was jacking with him. Said he done broke the handcuffs, LT. They're on his. Well, take them off of him. Dude already said if I open the door, it's my last day here. So yeah, long story into that. Raymond came. Raymond talked him down. They brought a new set of hand restraints. One hand out, take this link off. The other hand out, take this link off. I had to get switched out with another officer. I went and wrote a case, attempted assault on an officer. I don't know what happened with the case. I would see the guy a few other times, the few other times that I did work Charlie Pod and the time I was there. That dude said nothing to me. He'd turn around, he'd cuff up, he'd let me move him, but that was it. There was no conversation, no talking, no nothing. That guy, the shower doors weren't very well secured. It wasn't uncommon for an inmate in the shower to be able to kick that door open and take off running down the tier like crazy. That dude could have opened that door anytime he wanted to, and I firmly believe if he would have got his hands on me, there would have been a fight, but I'm 100% certain it would have been in his favor, and that's just by the brute sheer bruteness of this guy. I'm not saying I'm a wuss by any means, but I firmly believe he would have had the better hand of me, even with a partner. So that's some of the realities to SEG. If there's a message to take back for any new officers or anybody that is working still in this industry, you tell an inmate you're going to do something, do it. All right? Don't go back on your word. If you think for a second you can't do it, no. You're going to get yelled and hollered at, but you're not going to get called a liar. And that's essentially what that guy labeled me as, which is one of the worst things you can be. Folks, happy Tuesday. I hope y'all have enjoyed this video. I hope my voice has been not too terribly rough. Hopefully it comes back by the weekend so I can do my regular Sunday video. Y'all take care, stay safe, and soon to be, happy early Merry Christmas. Take care.